There are some cases that really get to me with the design and everything. Well, this BeQuiet is one of them. This is the Pure Base 500 FX. Let's see what makes it an awesome case.
Looking for affordable Windows or Office keys? Look no further, I got you covered. Head over to scdkey.com, pick your Windows edition, use my discount code LE25 to get a 25% on any Windows or Office products. Once you complete your order, after a few seconds you will receive your code. In Windows, go to Settings, there should be an Activate Windows prompt at the bottom. Click that, enter your code and wait for Windows to finish activation. To check the activation status, use the command prompt with the command slmgr.vbs/xpr and you should receive a notification that the machine is permanently activated. Once again, use code LE25 at scdkey.com.
You might know, you might not, but BeQuiet is one of those companies that built their reputation with high quality and of course quiet products. Today we are checking out the Pure Base 500 FX case. It's the successor to the popular Pure Base 500 case with some added goodies. What will immediately get your attention is the unusual looking front panel, and it is an extremely good ventilated metal mesh panel with two RGB light strips spanning from top to bottom, giving this case that FX in the name. Let's remove this panel and see what it's hiding under there. Trust me, you will need a good amount of force to pull it out, but don't worry about yanking the wires and such. The panel uses push pins to connect to those LED lights. We have another fine mesh dust filter here, which is removable for easier cleaning. Of course, the stars of the show are these Light Wings 120mm fans, 3 of them. These are PWM fans up to 1700 RPM with a beautiful ring of RGB light around them. And they are also specially designed with fins, which makes them quiet, of course. In the front you can mount 3 of these or 2 140mm fans. The radiator support in the front is up to 360mm. Under the case is a large dust filter spanning across the whole bottom area, and it's being pulled from the front the proper way. Moving to the interior of the case, the front panel is tempered glass, slightly dark tinted with just the right amount. It's held by 4 screws, which is odd in this day and age. BeQuiet should update this as well, so the panel is more flush with the case and held by the inner frame without any screws inside. A much secure way, as this way you can easily drop the glass. Anyhow, the interior looks absolutely gorgeous. All black, of course, with that silver metallic BeQuiet logo in the middle. That part where the logo actually is serves triple role. Firstly, the logo part hides the SSD cables if you decide to display your SSD on it, as it can accept 2 of them, but also the whole metal part actually serves to hide all the motherboard cables as well. So there it has 3 functions: hiding the cables for SSD, displaying them, and hiding all the major cables on the side. The motherboard support is up to ATX, of course with all the subsizes as well. Cable cutouts are present on the bottom, 3 of them, and all in correct places, and also 2 large ones at the top, also in correct places. Motherboard cutout at the middle is big enough so you can access the CPU cooler mounting from the back of it without any issues. The PSU shroud is perforated and the front hole is covered by a hard drive cage in the bottom. There are no fan mounting positions on the PSU shroud. The hole in the front is wide enough so you can use a radiator in the push-pull config without any problems. There would still be some room to spare. The addition of this hard drive cage that serves as a cover for this hole when it's not in use is just brilliant. On the back side we have one 140mm fan pre-installed, of course it's a Light Wings fan, and as you can see you can mount either 140 or 120mm fan here. On the back side, pretty usual stuff: IO shield opening, fan placement with predefined holes for 120 or 140mm fan without rails, so the fan stays in this fixed predefined position. Standard 7 PCI slots with sliding cover for securing the PCI screws. The PSU is installed from the back using the provided bracket with thumb screws. Back of the case is something super nice. Firstly, the panel is secured with thumb screws and it has a thick insulation built in it as well. This helps with the noise, of course. BeQuiet wouldn't be quiet without it. Alright, now, being a small case doesn't necessarily mean it's a plain looking case without stuff in it, so that's why there is this massive PWM fan hub and also ARGB controller in one. 6 fans and 6 ARGB devices can be connected to it simultaneously, and they can either be controlled via the button on the case, thus avoiding any motherboard software, or if you wish you can control it, use the control from your motherboard software. The hub is attached to this metal SSD bracket, so yeah, this bracket supports 2 SSDs, but one of them is occupied with the controller. You can move the hub to those 2 spots mentioned in the front of the case. You can move it here in the back, but you can use those holes, just saying. Cable management is organized nicely using Velcro straps for all major cables, but also zip tie points are present all over the case. In the hard drive cage there is an accessories box containing all the necessary screws and zip ties. The hard drive cage can be moved closer to the PSU to accommodate AIO, for example, if you decide to mount AIO in the front, keeping that gap on the front closed again. The cage has rubber grommets to suppress vibrations from hard drives if you still use them. Of course, you can mount another 2.5-inch drive here as well, beside 2 3.5 ones. The whole cage can be completely removed if you wish so, by revealing that nasty hole in the front. The PSU length support is great even with the cage in its place, so you can mount even longer PSUs with a lot of space to hide all the cables. Some of them you can tuck nicely in the hard drive cage as well. Moving to the top of the case, BeQuiet silver logo in the front, of course. I don't know why, but I like this logo a lot. It's not in your face, it's just sitting there looking cool. Front panel, USB Type-C port, single USB 3.0, big illuminated power button, super satisfying to press, mic and headphone jacks, and LED control button. And this is how these mesh filters should have been made on all cases. You know that I'm not a fan of these flimsy ones, but here BeQuiet did a great job with it. Plastic frame with magnets inside with a nice BeQuiet embossed logo in it. Super sturdy and gets the job done. The fan support up here is either two 120 or two 140 fans, or up to 280mm radiator support. It's a shame that 360mm rad can't fit up top. Building in this case is a pleasure, everything just went smooth, even with the cable management at the final stage. I used Ryzen 9 7950X with this build just to see how this case handles it, but with the AIO mounted in the front. And yeah, the case handles it, but mounting a 360 AIO in the front will cause the GPU to be grasping for a lot of fresh air, so I would recommend using smaller AIO for this case and mount it up top, because 280 and 360 AIOs will have 99% the same performance anyway. If you're wondering about temperatures with this exact build, well, the new 7000 series Ryzen CPUs are actually not quite good at representing or measuring the temperature, as every CPU will hit 95 degrees as they are built like that. But what can show you if the cooling is working or not are the clocks of the CPU. So this CPU was kept at that 95 degree mark, and clocks were up to 5.7 GHz max boost for single clock and 5.2 GHz all-core boost with Cinebench R23, which means that this AIO, which is also from BeQuiet, it's the Pure Loop 2 FX, is doing an excellent job. If you decide to play a bit with the curve optimizer and undervolt this CPU, it can hit 84 degrees max and boost those clocks even a little bit higher to 5.35 GHz with this particular AIO, which is great again. The GPU, on the other hand, is suffering if you mount an AIO in the front. So this Intel Arc A750 was hitting 75 degrees, but if I remove the AIO and use only stock fans in the front, this particular GPU was going up to 63 degrees only. So yeah, AIO will surely restrict front air intake a lot. So if we are talking about pros and cons of this case, just don't go with AIO in the front and it will all be good. Up top it's perfectly fine for both CPU and GPU. The front panel is actually very well ventilated. You can even remove the inner mesh filter, as the front one will act as a dust filter and give you more fresh air intake in return. Another major pro is the FX part of this case. That fan ARGB hub is just an icing on the cake. And I must say that RGB in this case is just beautifully done. It's there, but it's subtle, just like a perfect amount of light for daily and even night use. Of course, you can turn it off if that's not your thing or you don't like it at all. Having a full-length bottom dust filter is super nice. That metal bar for hiding SSD cables and displaying them is also a nice touch. I like how the front hole in the PSU is cleverly covered with a bottom hard drive cage. I would have liked if the PSU shroud could fit at least two 120mm fans. I mean, they can fit here but can't be screwed in place. The front is super unusual, you don't see this every day, and as I said, RGB is very well executed here. Since this is a mid-tower case, I can see why there isn't another USB Type-A port on the case, but I do like that it's ditched in favor of this Type-C, so I let this one slip. Since we are at the top, mesh filter is actually done good with this case, even though I don't like this type of mesh. It tends to restrict air up top since here filter is not even needed. So if you are watching this BeQuiet, please do a revision of this case so you can completely remove this mesh and use perforated top, which will act as a dust filter anyway. Also, the tempered glass panel, 4 screws, it's so last decade. This in particular has got to be improved in future revision of this case. In the end, if you are wondering if this case is worth the asking price of approximately $150, the answer is yes, it does. The build quality is excellent. It comes with 4 ARGB pre-installed fans and actually great fans above all. Those are not some crappy ones. You get an excellent fan RGB hub in the package too, and of course it's a great looking case too. So there you go. See you guys in the next video real soon, where I will be showing you this Pure Loop 2 FX360 AIO. Until then, like this video, check my other videos, sub to the channel, it really means a lot, and stay cool.